Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking again about the French and Indian War, but this time more so about the results or the effects of this North American conflict. So our objectives for today, you're going to evaluate the effects of the French and Indian War, and you're going to explain how the results of this war led to a rebellion in the Americas. So our question for today, how did the French and Indian War affect the relationship between colonists and England? And our standard again is 8.4.12d. So where we left off, it was 1763. The British have won the war as well as a large amount of territory in North America. So let's break it down. France. They lose the war. They're going to lose all of their possessions pretty much in North America. So all of Canada, and also around the world, most of their empire in India, and even some of that land that's east of the Mississippi River. So what would be like present-day New Orleans, Louisiana. So Spain, on the other hand, even though they were technically allies of the French during this war, they're going to make out pretty well. They're going to get all the French lands west of the Mississippi River. They're going to get New Orleans, but they're going to end up losing Florida to England. But at the end of the day, Spain ends up pretty well off, so no worries about them. So there you go. You got Spain again, in case you're still writing that down. But the most important one we really want to be looking at here is England. So England is going to get all of the French land in Canada. They're going to get exclusive rights to the Caribbean slave trade and commercial dominance in India. So to put it shortly, England's going to get a lot of stuff. They're going to grow immensely, and they're going to start realizing that, hey, this area in North America that we've been ignoring for so many years, it's actually pretty profitable. It's actually a really good location. Maybe we should actually start seeing what's going on over there. We should start paying them some attention and making sure they're following all the rules. And that's kind of where things are going to start. So just to remind us, here we see the map of North America in 1763, and again you can see how much the British or England has really claimed in North America, how much they've grown and how much control they now have. So some effects of the war on Britain, well, like we said, it's going to increase her colonial empire. It's going to increase the amount of land that she has in the Americas. But another thing it's going to do is it's actually going to really increase England's debt as well. They are going to be in so much debt from this war, they're not going to know what to do. They're not going to be able to pay it back by themselves. And a third effect that we're going to see on Britain is many British people now are going to have really bitter feelings against the colonists. They're going to say, okay, we fought this big war for you, we paid all this money out, and, what are we getting for it? We've had nothing but issues with you guys. So basically, this is what's going to make England say, hey, there's some issues over there. We have all this great land now. Maybe we should go over there, keep an eye on them. Maybe we should reorganize our empire and make sure that everybody's following the rules. Paying their taxes is going to be a big, big reason why. So let's talk about the effects of the war on the American colonists. Well, this is going to be the first time that they're really united against a common enemy. And what we mean by united, we mean that they're all working towards a common purpose, not necessarily that they're working together. But this is going to be the first time that they really kind of, are all working towards a common goal, and they achieve it. And it's going to be a great thing. It's going to be something for them to be able to talk about when they cross, colony lines, and something that they'll all have in common. Another thing that it's going to do, it's going to create this kind of socializing experience for all of the colonists who participated. So again, it's going to give them something to talk about. It's going to give them something to make them feel good and connected, and really increase the amount of communication between the colonies as well. And probably the most important thing here, guys, it created bitter feelings towards the British that would only intensify. And we'll look at why it created these bitter feelings so much. I mean, after all, the British did just help us win the war. We got all of this land now. All this land now we can push out from those 13 colonies and now move into, make new farmlands, grow our families. This should be a really happy time. But it's not. And we'll talk about why in just 1 minute. So another effect of the French and Indian War is we're going to see some major aftermath, and we're going to see some major tension along the frontier with one specific group of Indians led by the chieftain named Pontiac. And in 1763, he's actually going to lead what is called Pontiac's Rebellion against Fort Detroit. Because so many of his people have died from disease. So basically, before the French and Indian War and throughout, the British would also often give gifts of blankets to the Indians from places like Fort Detroit and Fort Pitt, and kind of say, oh, this is our offering to you to make peace, or this is our gift to you for being here on your land. But the thing that the Indians didn't know is that these blankets were infected with smallpox and led to the decimation or the killing off of almost 95% of their entire population. Millions of Indians, of Native Americans, died from this. Probably one of the worst cases of this type of killing off of groups of people in history, really. So he's going to try to exact his revenge. He's going to basically go with a number of his fellow Indian warriors. He's going to make attacks on a number of forts across the Ohio Valley. Now, ultimately, it's going to kind of go two ways. First, yes, the Indians will be successful in a number of their attacks. They'll go and they'll actually slaughter men, women, and children. They'll burn down these forts. They'll burn down the local towns that are around it, and it'll be a very, very gruesome time. Many colonists will be beheaded. They'll be scalped by these Indians in a way for the Indians to and then say, get off land. So that's going to kind of be one side of the story. Another side of the story, the colonists are going to be saying, we want to do the same thing. And then there's going to be a number of retributions or revenge attacks by colonists. Well, they'll go attack Indians, murder their entire families, and it's just going to be a big, big mess. It's going to be a disaster. And remember, they just finished a war. The last thing that the colonists and the British want to be doing is fighting yet again another war. So what we're going to see happen is, as a result of Pontiac's rebellion and as a result of kind of the conflict that's happening there, the British are going to say, enough is enough, okay? We're finished with fighting these Indians. They're very brutal people, and we just don't have enough soldiers to be able to deal with this. So they're going to actually make a rule in 1763. It's going to be called the Proclamation Line of 1763. Now you can see the proclamation line here in green. Now what this Proclamation Line of 1763 is going to do is it's going to say all colonists who are a part of the British colonies of the Americas have to stay to the east, meaning over here, have to stay to the east of this proclamation line in order to be protected by the crown, meaning in order to be protected by the soldiers that are there. So if, let's say, you live on this side of the proclamation line, well, we're not going to help you. We're not going to come to your defense if the Indians attack you. That's going to be your own problem. And so all of these people living out here are either going to have to be forced to move back east or stay where they are and fend off the Indians on their own. And this is going to make a lot of colonists upset because remember, we just won this big war where we won all of this new land, and people are going to say, we're crammed up in Philadelphia, we're crammed up in New York, let us move out west, let us move into this new territory that we won in this war and build new farms and, grow our country and be able to really move and use that land. But the British are going to say, no, we can't protect you there. You're going to have to abide by our rules. And that's really going to be where the major problems and kind of the foundation of rebellion begins. So the British government is basically going to try a number of things to try to control the colonists. So we said the first one is this proclamation line of 1763. A second way that they're going to try to control the colonists more, because remember, they're rethinking their empire. They have all this land, they have all these people there, might as well make sure everyone's following the rules and make sure we can collect taxes on everyone. So the British government in 1761 is going to put through a measure to prevent smuggling. So the big reason why they want to prevent smuggling, well, if the goods are being brought in illegally, there's no way for us to tax them. So they're going to put through something called the writs of assistance. And this means that British soldiers can jump on any ship at any time of day or night and check what's in it. So in other words, they can make sure nobody's trying to smuggle goods into the Americas. Now, there will be a famous case called the James Otis case, in which James Otis will say, well, this is an issue of private property. The government, meaning the king, must protect a citizen's right to private property, and it must be held in higher regard or held as more important than some parliamentary statute, meaning some law saying that, the difference, saying we don't have, our private property rights. Now, unfortunately, James Otis is going to lose, and the British are going to continue searching and seizing whatever they can, whenever they can, really, and basically disregarding our right to private property, which is going to be a big deal, especially after those enlightened philosophers taught us about things like equality and freedom and our natural rights, things like our right to private property. So the third thing that's really going to kind of push the colonists here is we're going to see a number of programs put forth by then Prime Minister George Grenville. And these programs are going to start in 1763. And basically, guys, what these programs are, they're laws saying that you either have to pay some type of tax, some new increased tax, or you have to allow the soldiers to do stuff that you wouldn't normally, want them to do, like come live in your house. You have to feed them and clothe them and everything. And it's going to do one of those two things. So the Sugar Act will be a tax on sugar, as well as molasses and any other type of product like that. The Currency Act will put a tax on currency and the actual paper money. The Stamp Act is another tax, which will actually say that any type of paper, any stamps, anything like that of documentary products will be taxed as well. And then last, you have the Quartering Act, and this is the one that's going to say that British soldiers have to be allowed to come live in your home. You have to feed them, you have to clothe them, you have to give them pretty much whatever they ask for. This is going to really be a huge violation of the colonists' rights. And it's going to be, some of the major reasons we see rebellion. So for the first time, there's going to be a group of people who join what we call the non-importation movement, or in other words, we're boycotting goods. We're not buying from the British. We're not going to involve ourselves in their new taxes and their new laws because they're unfair. So this new group of people who believe in this new non-importation movement would be called patriots. And that's really what they're going to be called throughout the Revolutionary War as well. So here we're seeing the very first foundations of rebellion, the first ideas of wanting to separate or, not even separate, but just call out Britain for being unfair and not treating them, justly. And that's really going to be the first foundations of what's to come, which, as you all know, is the Revolutionary War. So go ahead, answer the questions below, and then you can move on to our next activity and our next topic.